Hello, this is DJ Tutorials, and I'm going to help you out, Archangel, with your donut scene. So, I have it open here. Haven't really done anything else besides link your donut uh, material here to the right image texture, which is right here. So, I'm going to kind of help you with some of the stuff with your setup here to transfer over from cycles to ProRender a little bit easier. So first thing I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna turn this on just so I can see things a little bit easier and so that you and everybody else can see what I'm seeing. I'll just do this. So here's what we have right now. We have this table here. We have a cup, and this looks like the famous Blender Guru pink donut sort of tutorial series. So that's great that you're doing that. To help with how everything looks, I'm first going to throw in an HDRI, which you can get from HDRI Haven. If you do a search, HDRI Haven, and go here, go to HDRIs, find something you like, probably something like a studio or something like that, just to get it sort of like set up kind of nice. And you can use this when you download that. And what you'll do here is you go to the world setting, go to IBL, open, HDRI, and I'm just going to use this small studio here. And this will help you see your reflections and other elements a little bit nicer. And the first thing I'm going to tell you right away is that ProRender is going to render things a little bit differently, and it works better when you use their node structures and their shaders to make your materials. So the first thing I'm going to do before we start doing that is, or at least after the HDRI, is I'm going to address the issue that you're having with your sprinkles here. So I'm going to just split the panel here, open up the shader editor, and I'm going to select. Good work with organizing your stuff, by the way. You don't see this often with beginner sessions. Everything seems very nice and organized and named, so that's really nice. So first thing we're going to do here is this node doesn't really work. Before it was an issue and you kind of wouldn't be able to use randomized colors or whatever. But the good thing is they actually created a RPR node for this. So you just go to Shift A to add. You're going to do a search, RPR, and what you want is this RPR lookup right here. Okay. And it'll have UV and all this other stuff in here. So what you want to do is go right here to random color, pop the value here into your factor, and that will give you your randomized colors. Okay, so that's going to be really nice to solve most of what you're seeing here as far as your issues are concerned with the randomized colors. Now, as far as your lighting, you have to remember that ProRender deals with lighting a little bit different. And usually the lights are about, I think it's 10 times the strength. So if you go here to the power, divide this by 10, you should get a little bit closer to what you were seeing in your other, in cycles. Let me just make this a little bit easier to see here. So maybe that'll be a little bit closer. I'm not sure. I would have to go back and forth to cycles, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to show you how to make some of this look a little bit better anyway. Oh, it looks like we have lock camera to view. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to help you with here is your materials on your glass. And what you'll want to make sure that you have, you'll want to check out my video on the ProRender for how to download the materials library. And what you want to make sure that you really start with here is you want to have this here, this material library. And this will give you a really nice starting to some really nice materials for ProRender. So whereas this is maybe okay for cycles, ProRender, you're going to get a lot more out of using this and its setup. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how you can do this. So instead of car paints, you're going to go to glass, and you can pick from a list of these preset materials. So glass solid clear, and you'll click this button here that says import material. and that will give you a little bit more of a uh, better sort of like glass for this particular object. And what you'll want to do is click right here where it says allow caustics, like that. And this might give you a little bit better of a glass material uh, for your cup and your saucer. Now your liquid is a little bit more of a complex thing because what you're doing here is you're using a volume node. And this node here does not work in Radeon Prorender. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to kind of do the same thing here. We're going to, instead of glass, go down to where it says volumes. Okay. And you can click on, sort of any of these and sort of work at it from there. So we're just going to click on the colored glass, go to import material, and we're going to zoom in on it here. And let's actually do this where I'm going to isolate. Well, that didn't work. So let's see here. Let's coffee cup. I just want to take this and I'm going to go and move that to a new layer. Not sure where it went, so hold on. Move to a new collection. We're going to call this liquid. And what I want to do is just have this by itself so we can just observe what's happening with this particular object. Okay. And you can see that basically this is making a sort of voluminous um, liquid here. And what we'll do is we'll take the diffuse, and this doesn't really matter for this because we're not really looking at that. Reflection is 0. And your refraction color now, this is going to change what that volume color looks like. This right here, this refraction color. And you can also, so let's say you want it to be something like brownish because it's a coffee, or like a dark color. Say it's like something like that. And then you can add right here what's called absorption. Let me just open this up a little bit more, this absorption color. Click on that, and you can change the color here and change the distance. Let me change the refraction color just so you can kind of see what the color is doing. So if I take this absorption color and I move it to another color, you can see what it's doing. Okay. So that's kind of like giving it a volume look, just like you were trying to do before with the cycles one. This one will give you a way that you can actually control the volume color. And then the refraction color, you can change like this to whatever you'd like. Let's say you want it to be like a darker brown or a reddish or something like that. And then the reflection color, which is the actual color of the reflections here, you can also change that as well. So you can change that to a darker color if you want, to sort of match that color a little bit better. And then let's turn back on the coffee cup. And there you have a sort of more volume shaded element there for your fluid. You can kind of play with this and get it to whatever it is that you really want it to be. Now, I would actually, I'm going to give you a couple pointers to sort of help you out with your scene here. Not that you really asked for it, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it helps out folks who are learning. And the number one thing I'd say is the frosting stuff here. It's a little bit thick, so I would pull this down. And I would actually take all of your edges. So maybe taking this whole loop here and all of this business along the edge here. It just looks like everything's a little bit too far away. Maybe you can try and manipulate this a little bit more to get these edges a little bit closer to the actual donut because they look a little bit far away. Maybe rework that a little bit, but keep the same settings that you have for your sprinkles here. I think that would really help out with your donut here. The next thing that I would do is I'm not sure if he puts this glass material in the donut one, in the donut tutorial. But I think what will help out just the look of this scene is changing this to something like a ceramic. So if you go in here, go to porcelain, and let's say porcelain matte, and just use that. I think that will make your scene look a little bit better. And grab this so that the handle is on the other side there instead of right at camera, so you can see what you've done as far as the work on the handle here. The next thing here is if we look at, and I'm going to use something here called matte cap. So if you put it on solid, go up here, turn on your matte cap, you can kind of look at your edges and see how the shading will look. And you see that dark ring around the edge here. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to tighten up these edges here. And you can do that by loop selecting all the top edge and the bottom edge here. Go to item and change this to a crease. You could try and do that. Or probably the easiest thing is loop cut with Alt Shift left click these two areas. Hit Control B and you can add a bevel like this and hold Shift, and you can kind of hit up on the mouse wheel. You can control how many loops that you're adding. Let me do this a little bit closer so you can see. So that's Control B there, and if you hold Shift and then you also hit the mouse wheel, you can control how many of these that you're adding. So something like that will help tighten up that edge. And let's see. So that'll make that edge a little bit nicer, a little bit more crisp, so that when you do your final render, it'll help out. And you'll kind of want to do the same thing here. If you look at a saucer, they're a little bit more. There's a little bit more definition in these areas. So I'm going to add another. Let me turn this off so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to add another bevel here, another bevel here, here, and here. I'm just selecting all of those, and then adding a little bit of a bevel there. And so you can see it has a little bit more definition. Turn back on your subdivision, and there you have that. Now I might have gone a little bit too far there because it looks like it's a little bit funky right in here, but I would just double check your reference material and make sure that this saucer is as accurate as you can get it without spending too much time. But just double check that out and see if you can get that a little bit more tight and a little bit more accurate there. So there's that. Then for your table, I'm going to convert this. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go over to fabric. And I'm actually going to change this to, let's see. Let's just put this one in, see what this one does. So that's an actual transparency that it's throwing in there, which isn't necessarily going to work for this table. So let's do this here. Nope. Let's try this. And it looks like these are all using that sort of material. So let's try this. Go in here, see where it says RPR normal map. Take this, scale it. Let's do 50. Nope, that's actually not what I want to do. We want to do this mapping. There we go. So basically I just added a mapping node on top of this area here. Let's do 100, 100, 100. And let's change this diffuse color to something a little bit better. I think you had like a blue like that. And then let's take the normal map scale, and I'm just going to put it at 0.1 so that it's a little bit easier to look at. So it gives a little bit of a texture to the table, the fabric there, which can help with the overall look because it gives a little bit more detail. And you can actually take this image texture and you can run it into a color ramp like this. Take that and use that for the diffuse roughness and the reflection roughness. And then you can sort of control how reflective this surface can be. So let's do a little bit of this. Take this, and it's not going to be glass or anything, so we're going to do something like that and pull this maybe over. So you can kind of play with that, and it looks like there's a little bit of a coating here, so let's actually throw this on there too. You can kind of play with that and see how you can use that to your advantage there, and just play with the mapping node here. Basically, what it's doing is it is taking your UV and it's already unwrapped because it's a plane, it looks like, that you're using here. So it's taking the UV and it's multiplying how many times it's scaling this texture by 100. So it's making it smaller and smaller and smaller. And then this right here is basically your bump map. So it's making a more bumpy surface here. That's basically what that's doing. So hopefully this helps you out with transferring this stuff. Basically, major thing that you want to do is make sure that you throw in an HDRI background. You can see the shine coming off of this thing at this angle, by the way. You can see how shiny this is, which is not really accurate to what a proper cloth would be, but maybe a textured surface of a table or something like that would be like that. Um, but hopefully this helps you out with some of this. I did go over this a coffee shader in my most recent video on transferring um, your project over to ProRender, so you can check that out and match it because I show you, I think, step by step, pretty much how you can replicate that using the shaders inside of ProRender. But I think this will help you out. I think the primary thing here was you're having trouble with the sprinkles, which is taken care of by the the RPR lookup right here with the random color. So basically, that's probably going to be it for this one. Hopefully that helps you out with looking at some of these materials and fixing a couple things to get it converted over uh, to ProRender. Just make sure you pay attention to your lighting. Make sure that you pay attention to some of those little bits of details, like this, the frosting and stuff here. And I wish you luck with finishing up this piece. It looks like it's really coming together. So thanks very much for subscribing, and I will talk to you later.